the first part of the plenary was fantastic and great resources that were shared. So Vanessa, if we just want to go to the next slide. And I know as people are getting settled and moving back and forth, we just wanted to do a check-in with everybody. If you just want to pop into the chat about how you're feeling today, this completely aligns with our work that we do in experiential learning. So are you feeling a little excited, maybe a little crazy and squirreled, which maybe some of our team feels right now? And are you tired? And if you're tired, remember it is only September 19th. So I'll just give everyone a couple minutes to add their thoughts to the chat there. Yeah, and I think everyone's, this has been, just when we think that the beginning of a year can be a little crazy and squirrely, I think this one will go down in the record books for that. But very excited about the resources that we have to share with you here today. There's lots, and even when I think about, and our team was talking this morning, and we look at all of the resources that were developed through OCTE from May through into the summer, it is amazing the amount of resources that are there for people to be able to access and use within their classrooms. So just to introduce myself, if you don't know me, my name is Leanne Armstrong, and I am the representative that sits on the OCTE executive representing experiential learning. And I'm just going to introduce the rest of the team that's here today. Oh, and just so you know, I'm from the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board. So I am going to be one of the moderators today in introducing the experiential learning resources to you. I also have speaking with me Rachel Allen. I'm going to get all my team to turn their cameras on so you can put faces to names. Rachel Allen is from the Toronto Catholic District School Board, and she's also the leader of experiential learning in her board. We have Vanessa DiMarcelli. She might not be able to put her screen on. She's working the PowerPoint slide and looking after all of our technology, and I'm sure she's sweating behind the scenes right now and doing a fantastic job. And she is from the London Catholic District School Board and is the leader of experiential learning for her board. We have Teresa MacArthur, who's going to help us out. She's going to be putting all of the links into the chat box for everybody to be able to follow along today. So thank you, Teresa. And she is from the Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board, and she is also the leader of experiential learning for her board. And finally, we have Lisa Gallet, who will be answering any of your questions, nice wave, Lisa, in the chat. And as we go along, she'll do the best she can. She was not the writer of every single one of these, although she did a great portion of them. She'll do her best if you have questions about particular pieces that were written. If not, we will have a question and answer and discussion at the end of the rollout, I guess, of the resources. And we can defer some questions to there if we need to. So the goal of today is to give you a brief outline of Experiential Learning Platform and to do a short overview of the projects that were written. So please feel free, as I said, to put any of those questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. So we can go to the next slide there, Vanessa. So just as a brief overview to get an understanding of how we decided to write our projects and how we felt it was necessary to review the foundation of experiential learning in this portion so that you could get that sense of where we were coming from. So experiential learning is important in every grade with every subject and is appropriate for every child, youth, and adult learner. It is an inquiry-based pedagogical approach that provides opportunities for learners to co-construct their learning by participating in rich experiences connected to community outside of the school, to reflect on those experiences to derive meaning and then apply their learning to influence their decisions and actions in various aspects of their lives. So the experience can involve national, global, and local communities, and it can be physically present, so an on-site experience. It can be through the use of digital tools and technology, so a virtual experience. And it can always be blended, which is the combination of the two. And you can see that in the experiential learning cycle that is on the PowerPoint. And I just wanted to highlight that the term virtual in the EL cycle was not added during COVID. I always like to bring light to that, but it was always been there since the inception of the writing of the Community Connected Experiential Learning document that was written in 2016. And for anyone who is a co-op teacher, it is also part of the cooperative education curriculum document that was written in 2018. And looking at that, we know during experiential learning opportunities, the emphasis is on the relationship between and among students, educators, and community members. And the emphasis is not on the physical location. So that kind of brings us back to that virtual opportunities as well. And this is enlightening to consider in the times that we are in, and that we're really trying to help engage in the relationship rather than that physical location. So it has the power to provide authentic, dynamic, and engaging learning experiences because it opens doors to elevated teaching and learning opportunities and invites educators and students to build relationships at the local, national, or global levels. Experiential learning makes an important contribution to improving student achievement and promoting well-being when they're fully engaged in multiple and varied experiential learning opportunities early and often. Children, youth, and adults learners develop a deeper understanding of the Ontario curriculum and kindergarten programs, a deeper understanding of the global competencies, and an appreciation of their interconnectedness and the skills, knowledge, and habits of mind to become competent and confident education and career life planners. And that's where the, from our screen, experiential learning enhances relevance, promotes engagement, and contributes to improved achievement and the promotion of well-being and equitable outcomes for all students. Perfect. We can go to the next slide there, Vanessa. Fantastic. So what drives experiential learning, and how did we make connections to our community, real life and real world experiences, and be relevant and authentic? So there are 4 key drivers, as you can see, and they are the Ontario curriculum, where all of our work must connect. It allows students to develop a deep understanding of the expectations in a relevant and authentic way in all subjects, including the kindergarten program. And then we move to well-being, where students develop a positive sense of self, feel a sense of belonging, and are able to develop a positive relationship with peers and adults, which in turn develop a healthy mind and body for every learner. Our global competencies, and we know that when we're looking at jobs of the future, that our students need to build the skills for future employment. Developing the global competencies or the 21st century learning skills, students will develop and demonstrate the skills needed for the future, and students will appreciate the interconnectedness that those skills with the world around them. And then lastly, the education and career life planning and pathways. And we know that the estimate for our millennials is that they're going to work between 15 and 20 jobs in their lifetime. And the younger that they are, the more jobs that they're going to work. So it makes it extremely important for our students to be good education and career life planners and understand the pathways available to them. So this will allow students to be able to demonstrate the skills, knowledge, and habits of mind to become those competent and confident education and career life planners. And students can then make informed choices about their pathway that result in successful transitions from grade to grade, elementary to secondary, and from secondary to their initial post-secondary destination. And also trying to highlight all of the different pathways that are available to them. So in writing these projects, they were developed by an amazing team of writers. A few of them are here with us today. And when we first met, we brainstormed using those key drivers as a guide when we developed the projects and resources that we would use to support educators, administrators, and when working with community partners. So all of the projects are and have educator and or student-facing documents. They offer opportunities for the reader to adapt and modify for the individual classroom and setting, whether it be on-site, blended, or in virtual locations, and in both public and Catholic school systems, and in elementary and secondary. So experiential learning is an ongoing, hands-on, and reflective approach to learning in the classroom. And this approach, this was our approach to writing the projects. And we wanted to highlight the key drivers of experiential learning and develop meaningful and authentic learning opportunities for a variety of projects. So connecting to the key drivers, we were able to focus the learning. We were explicit about the language that we used, and we were practical in the approach to make connections to real world, real life situations. So 3 of our 10 projects that were written, and yes, my math is not wrong, our skilled trades document that we did was actually 2 projects that we wrapped into one, are connected specifically to the skilled trades. So following the ministry mandate for experiential learning for our focus, needs to focus on skilled trades in the apprenticeship pathway, and these projects support these opportunities and can be used in both, as we said, in both elementary and secondary panels. And 2 of our 10 writing pieces so far have been translated to French, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit, and more of those will be continually added. Perfect. So the projects themselves are is a large variety, and they cover a multitude of areas to support experiential learning. So the projects that you can see on your screen, I'm not going to read through every single one of them. So there was 10 in total that we worked on from May to August, and they cover a large background of different areas. So we're going to highlight each of these projects for the duration of our time together here, so you can get an understanding and the rationale behind writing them, and a short overview and a description of what you will find in the documents. So we'll be adding all of the links to the chat if you want to follow along, or if you want to follow along on the OCTE site. And I think Vanessa is going to show us the OCTE site there. There we go. So you can go into the OCTE site under resources, and then scroll to online learning, which is at the very bottom. And then you can choose either secondary, elementary, specialist, high skills major, but we're focusing on the experiential learning. So you can pop into that page and follow along there if you would like, or you can just sit back and relax with your coffee and let us do the work for you, and we'll take you through all of the documents. So all of the documents that we have are hyperlinked, so you can go to the section of the document that you want to see. As mentioned, some of the writers are here today, so we can help answer any of your questions, and either in the chat box or later on at the end of the session. And we're going to get started in looking at some of those documents.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel, and I'm going to take you, buckle up on a little drive through of all of the great resources that we have to share with you this morning. So we're actually going to start off with one of the documents called Connecting Skilled Trades to Experiential Learning. And as we all know, there's a great need for skilled trade workers, not only in Ontario, but nationally. And so we wanted to help students start to make those connections when they're in technical education courses, and connecting them to the skilled trades pathways that exist in these areas. So the goal of this project was to create a suite of activities that students can work on that will be tied not only to experiential learning, but also to the global competencies. You're going to see 4 different modules, each with a lesson plan and complementary resources. The first module looks at making links between skilled trades and global competencies. Teachers are provided with student handouts, slide decks, and the student self-assessment rubric that will help the students look at how they are progressing with their understanding and connections to global competencies. Modules 2, 3, and 4 are going to help students and teachers participate in various EL opportunities related to the skilled trades. So it could be something like a conference, an interview that could be live, virtual, or pre-recorded, project-based learning, inquiry-based, problem-based, combined with design thinking, a lot of different options. All of these opportunities can, of course, take place in person or virtually as necessary. And the teachers, again, are given handouts, worksheets, slide decks, and lesson plans for each of these opportunities. Within the lesson plans, there are suggestions regarding how to make modifications to suit particular areas of tech education and where to find rich and relevant experiential learning opportunities for students. And all of these resources are available in PDF as well as Microsoft Office, so like PowerPoint and Word, so that they can be tailored and edited to the educator's needs. All EL opportunities include reflection and connection to students' future pathways and choices to highlight local programming such as OYAP or SHSM that the student might want to engage in. Our second resource continues on to the skilled trade theme, but this time it's looking at it with a financial literacy lens. So the second one is called Experiential Learning, Making Sense of Skilled Trades. And no, we don't charge extra for quality humor like that. So this resource is actually intended for educators to explore financial literacy and the skilled trades, all while grounded in the global competencies. It can be used to suit a grade 7 and 8 class. So that would cover some math curriculum, the new math curriculum, language and career exploration. It could be used in grade 10 career studies, focusing on some career exploration as well as the financial literacy component of the curriculum. Or it could also be tailored to be used in a senior high school technological education course that wanted to be connected to some of the skilled trades. So the lessons scaffold the students through exploring the skilled trades, starts out in general, and then focusing in on a trade of their choice. If a teacher is running it through a tech course, they may want to sort of guide what field the students explore. Students will also be introduced to or review the global competencies that will be the backbone of the rest of the exploration that they're doing. In the student exploration piece, students are provided with choices that best suit them in terms of how they want to approach skilled trades, starting out with exploring education and apprenticeship opportunities and all of sort of the financial implications that go with those choices. Students will then choose how they want to explore digital footprint, social media presence, and just sort of a positive online presence in general of various companies. The students will then get into the sort of nitty-gritty of finance of loans, scheduling workers, payroll, buying in bulk, and pricing. And finally, the students will explore the short and long-term impacts of decisions that they might make around environment, as well as international connections. Both an educator guide and a student-facing resource are included. All student resources are available to edit to best suit the needs of your curriculum and your students. And of course, the experiential learning cycle is embedded throughout the activities and highlighted in the educator guide. Our third resource this morning is called Who Will Teach the Machines? And this takes a little shift away from some of the skilled trades and gets us into the idea of STEAM thinking. And it's engaging our students in STEAM thinking and machine learning and how that impacts our society. Students will again work through the experiential learning cycle of participate, reflect, and apply as they actually learn how to train a machine. With a focus on global competencies like communication and critical thinking, a series of lessons are designed to have a student train a machine and investigate possible issues when they're doing their design. As they try to build a diverse data set, the students can use this activity as facilitated in class or virtually. In the first of 4 lessons, the students will be provided with a background on machine learning and connect their own personal experiences to using artificial intelligence in their everyday lives as they interact with Alexa and Google and Siri, Spotify, Netflix, and all of those. Lessons 2 and 3 actually have the students training their own machine. And if you've never had the chance to train your own machine, I actually highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun and a lot less messy than trying to train a puppy or whatever member of your household needs training. Students will be introduced to sign language, concepts of nonverbal communication as they're doing their training, And they'll also be given the opportunity to actually collect the data that they are creating and critically examine it for bias, both in terms of the data they're collecting as well as how the machines are trained. And then taking a look at what bigger impact that might have on society. Finally, in the lesson 4, students will actually get to apply their learning on a choice board, doing some career exploration. So regardless of whether you have students who are actually interested in the technical STEAM careers, students will be able to see the impact that understanding machine learning and data bias can have on a wide variety of career paths. But before we can sort of dive into all these amazing resources, got to take a step back for a second, particularly if we're teaching virtually with our students. And that brings us to our 4th resource this morning, and that's building community in a virtual classroom. And this resource was created for classroom educators, and it's got 10 days worth of virtual community building activities, all created within the experiential learning framework. Each community building activity will take about 40 to 60 minutes to complete and revolve around themes like who am I, digital citizenship, understanding empathy, goal setting, and collaboration. The activities are designed to help support students in reflecting on their abilities as they relate to the global competencies and to help build rapport within that digital classroom. And the reason this resource was designed is to create a support for educators who are looking to make those virtual connections. By structuring each community building activity within the experiential learning framework, it gives our students the opportunity to have meaningful and engaging learning experiences, but also giving them the space and the time to have that thoughtful reflection and experience about how they can apply their learning to this new learning environment for a lot of them. We know that educators know the importance of that community building piece, and a lot of our educators are really fantastic at doing those in person, but we start to realize how much physical closeness and contact some of those activities take. And so it's sort of taking a fresh look at how we can still build that community without being so physically close to each other. The resource includes some rationale and sort of background information for you around building community, 10 themed lessons, resources that are all there for you, consolidation lesson that actually pulls together the sort of 9 previous sessions. And there's a common structure to all the lesson plans, making them really easy to follow and really well connected to the experiential learning cycle. They've, again, been created so that you can modify them as you see fit. I will testify I used a number of these resources this summer with 2 different groups, one with a group of educators and the second with a group of 4th and 5th graders. And I was able to use the same resource with just a little bit of tailoring. So it's just fantastic to use with a variety of different groups. And you can always pick and choose the activities that best suit the group and the course that you're working with. Leanne, I'm going to pass it over to you to walk us through the next.
Perfect. Thanks, Rachel. And one of the things that we also need to think about when we are building opportunities is looking at our community partnerships. So this next resource that was built was for both leaders of experiential learning and classroom educators to support resources for the recruitment and involvement of community partners in experiential learning opportunities and initiatives. So the intention is to support those looking to involve community partners in all 3 phases of the EL cycle, as well as providing some how-tos and how to find appropriate partners and successfully creating an educator-student community member partnership and an in-person or a virtual environment. So the process for recruiting and implementing a community partner into experiential learning initiatives can feel daunting to an educator sometimes. So we tried to simplify it here with this document on community partners or community members and letting them know that they are part of the education system and the potential mentors for the elementary and secondary students. So it provides leaders of experiential learning and educators with thoughtful considerations and useful resources to truly partner with community members, industry, institutions, and organizations as a highly valued component of experiential learning activities. And it's the hope that it will encourage and support their involvement and result in a positive impact on the student learning. So inside this resource, you will find overarching questions of, why involve a community partner in experiential learning opportunities? What are the different examples of resources that can help explain the experiential learning cycle and the role of the community partners that plays and how they interconnect with each other? When can a community partner support learning of that cycle with that connectedness? Where is the community partner experience happening, and what needs to be considered regarding student privacy and safety? And how can you effectively recruit community partners for experiential learning? And who are potential community partners, and what does that look like? So all of the linked resources within each section are intended specifically to be modified to meet the educator needs, and have been, as we've said with all of our documents, provided in a variety of formats, so that can easily be done with any educator. And then we know when we have our community partners, that might help lead us to do some outdoor learning. And in our environments right now, outdoor learning is a really good place to be for our students and for our educators. So we wanted to make sure that we had something that was recognizing outdoor learning and how boards could offer this. So that's why we developed this resource here. So outdoor learning opportunities are experiences that allow students to interact with the natural world in a natural setting and to learn from it. So it doesn't mean that the student needs to travel far away from their school and conservation areas. Instead, educators are encouraged to investigate their schoolyards and local school communities where possible, to allow students to learn more about the place in which they live. So learning in the outdoor not only offers a unique context for learning, but also provides experiential learning outside of the classroom to foster a connection to local places and to develop a greater understanding of ecosystems. And we know, and this is one of the ones that we hope will stay around after COVID and after all of our work that we're doing, that more educators and students will want to do that co-construction of outdoor learning. So as students become connected to the land, it sparks their interest, including its story, which allows educators and students to explore the history of their community in times, allowing for authentic inquiry into Indigenous perspectives in the area for which they live. So connecting to the land supports development of environmental stewardship, and it has benefits and additional benefits to help mental health and academic achievement. So inside this document, there's a simple landing page that you can see right now, and it provides more depth when you go into the participate, reflect, and apply. So in participate, you're going to look at suggestions of activities to get educators started, and resources to support them. With reflect, it offers ideas and routines to aid students in processing outdoor experiences, and apply offers ideas and resources to capitalize on the knowledge derived from outdoor learning opportunities. And it's just a great space for our students and our educators to be in right now. I don't know about your board, but in our board, we have to wear the shields and the masks. Unless we're outside, then we can take the shields off. So great opportunity to be able to do that. So when we're doing that, we're looking at, and this one, next resource was very focused when we were thinking about how are we putting all of these initiatives together within our boards. So that led us to putting in for a call for proposals. So most of the LELs might use a call for proposals for their initiatives, projects, experiences that educators are having. So it was put together as a toolkit to consider all of the steps as they are putting together a call for proposals to put out to their school boards. It's comprehensive in its scope by offering a rationale related to resources and the initial project launch to the final collection of feedback and project artifacts and everything in between. It's a very extensive document that we have. And it was, the rationale behind it was the process of launching and selecting and supporting educator-led experiential learning projects, and knowing how important that was, and that it requires thoughtful planning and preparation in order to be successful. So it gives you a step-by-step considerations and a plug-and-play, though easily modifiable resource based on experience with what has worked and what has been successful. And it is the hope that this resource will prove to be a valued support. So a call for proposals can be daunting when putting it together, but we didn't want people to have to reimagine that wheel and take the time to do it, so we put that together for you. So in the document, part 1 is planning for the project, part 2 is the project launch and selection, and part 3 is the project promotion, support, and celebration and reporting. So within each section, there's a variety of topic-specific explanations, and links and resources are provided to support at every step and every phase of the project. So there is a call for experiential learning proposal sample, PD session, a toolkit for experiential learning project proposals, sample applications, and experiential learning project proposal selection process considerations. So where relevant, specific considerations for projects happening within a distance learning environment are also included in the resource. So we can look at both the in-class and virtual environment. So in looking at some of our resources, most of our resources that we built, one of the key areas that we felt we needed to connect to was the assessment and evaluation, which really moves experiential learning away from that one-off trip that you take that's so much fun for the day, but is forgotten 3 days later when something else happens. So embedding this in, and especially for our educators in assessment and evaluation, to allowing them to making that trip a part of the actual learning and not just the party at the end of the learning, we added the assessment and evaluation document. So within this document, you'll see achievement charts, resources, and exemplars to support rich planning, assessment, and evaluation of EL activities. And the resource considers both content and performance standards throughout the experiential learning lens, highlighting and adapting the elements of the chart to consider assessment and evaluation in experiential learning. So the achievement chart supports the educator in connecting authentic learning experiences to relevant curriculum expectations, promoting reflection, and guiding the development of assessment tasks and tools, planning instructions, providing a baseline for consistent and meaningful feedback to students, and establishing clear categories and criteria with which to assess and evaluate student learning. So all of those concepts are embedded in this document. And as I said at the beginning, we really wanted to take that pedagogical approach to going beyond the field trip. And it means that students are active participants in the experience. And the experience itself and the learning that will result from that experience. So these rich experiences are deeply connected to student learning and meaning making. And it is very important to remember that EL and assessment and evaluation and its application is applicable to any classroom. So grade 1 to 12, regardless of the subject. And the linked resource will help support the teacher in planning effective assessment and evaluation and student learning. So what's included in this document is, like I said, achievement charts for experiential learning, and it's based on the achievement charts from Growing Success. It also contains planning resources to support the creation or co-creation of learning goals and success criteria. And then finally, there's 2 exemplars, one for elementary and one for secondary, that are available to show how to plan, assess, and evaluate experiential learning within this framework. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rachel. We're playing tag.
That's right. So Leanne talked about that great tie-in to the assessment and evaluation piece. And what goes really nicely with the hand in hand in that is around the planning of your virtual field trips, especially in a time where we likely won't be loading our students onto those yellow buses, and my order for the Magic School Bus appears to be backlogged. So this was a resource to help you create a virtual field trip that ties in really nicely with that assessment and evaluation piece. And this is a way to engage our students in real life experiences. The document will help educators develop a rich and authentic virtual field trip that is connected to that curriculum piece. Also help you tie it into global competencies, assessment and evaluation, and of course, student well-being. The document was developed to help our educators with support in taking the students outside of the classroom virtually, but still connecting it to the real world and to their real lives right now. It's helping 21st century learning skills in terms of design thinking, and is sort of course, all wrapped in the experiential learning cycle with bringing those key drivers together. Included in this document, you'll be able to see how to create an effective virtual field trip and provide ongoing descriptive feedback, connect to assessment and evaluation of experiential learning. There is an experiential learning virtual field trip template, and this is fantastic to sort of walk you through step by step. Oftentimes our educators are very familiar with how to sort of go through the permission forms and planning of a physical field trip. And there are components of that that are the same, but how to do that virtually and tie in all of those opportunities. There are both teacher-facing and student-facing resources included, and that will allow for the co-construction of the experience. Everything from sort of getting to know your learners to some how might we questions, how to tie it into the curriculum, learning goals, and success criteria. There's a bank of reflective questions that have also been included. We know that that is just such a key piece of the experiential learning cycle and turns it from just a one-off field trip like Leanne was talking about into that full EL experience. Those reflection questions tie in well-being, global competencies, education and career life planning, and pathways. And then at the end, there's actually a virtual field trip choice board that can be used to select opportunities that might be available. It's by far not a full list of activities, but it's a great way to sort of get things started when you're thinking about a virtual field trip. And another resource that will just be absolutely essential in terms of planning the virtual field trip is the Experiential Learning website. So when we initially made that sort of abrupt transition to distance learning in the spring, educators were made aware of and possibly overwhelmed with a plethora of resources that are available to us provincially. And one of the really neat things with sort of this forced pivot online is that there are some resources that were only available to people regionally that are suddenly available provincially and nationally to our classrooms and our students. And so with sort of this inundation of information, we created a website to help organize the resources that leaders of experiential learning felt were the most impactful. There were just so many options out there, and so we took some time to sort of filter through what might best help our students. We added supporting information to the website, including lesson plans, unit plans, suggestions, a lot of ties into the documents that we've talked about today, so that teachers can work through the full experiential learning cycle. This resource is sort of a one-stop shop, we're hoping, for everything experiential from K all the way through to 12. And you can, of course, use it in a face-to-face as well as virtual or some sort of a blended environment, which doing our best to sort of take into consideration the mobility issues that exist at this time. The participate resources, we'll just highlight those for a second. They've been grouped into two categories: those that allow for curriculum exploration and those that allow for pathways exploration. And even though they are divided, educators are encouraged to try and include both within their experiential learning programs. As I mentioned, lesson plans and other resource packages are also offered there. There's examples of experiential learning programs that can be used or adapted by educators. And the final page offers resources to help make connections to their own community partners in experiential learning. And again, tying into a lot of the things that we sort of talked about this morning. And finally, pour nos collègues qui enseignent en français, Si vous changez la langue sur le site web d'OCTE, vous avez accès à 2 de nos documents que nous avons discutés ce matin. Évaluation de l'apprentissage par l'expérience et le site web de l'éducateur sur l'apprentissage pour l'expérience. Nous continuons d'ajouter des sites web en français et des ressources en français, alors continuez de vérifier le site du Conseil de l'éducation technologique en Ontario et vous allez voir plusieurs ressources. So, for our colleagues who do teach in French, if you actually toggle the language just at the top of the OCTE website, you will see the resources that have been developed and translated into French. 2 of the resources that we discussed this morning, the assessment and evaluation resource, as well as the website for educators. There will be more to come, so please continue to check back and refer back to the OCTE site as those get posted.
So back to me, and that was a whole lot of resources that we put out. And I just want to say a great, big, huge thank you to everybody who was on our writing team. A few of them are here today, as we said. It was a lot of work. And when we look back, and it almost makes me want to cry when I go through this and we see all of the resources that we made and how fantastic they are to help support educators and students as we move through this new normal that we have. So we'd like to open it up. If you have any questions or discussions, I've been kind of watching the chat, and yes, we do have a bit.ly that Lisa can put in for the PowerPoint that you can have. You can find all of the resources on the OCTE site, as we said at the beginning. And then, and you can modify any of them for anything that you want to do within your classrooms. But please feel free to connect with us too if you want. We can help you with any of your experiential learning needs. But I would also, for anyone who's not a leader of experiential learning on this call, I would recommend that you do reach out to your leader of experiential learning. Every board has one, and have some conversations with them about how you might be able to develop some initiatives and experiences within your classroom, and they are there to support you and help you along the way, and they have a little bit of money too. So that's always helpful when you're trying to build some experiences. So every board looks a little bit different, but every board does have a leader of experiential learning. So please reach out to them within your board. So last but not least, if anybody wants to open up their mic and ask questions or wants to put it in the chat, we'll stay around for a little bit. Yep, Vanessa, you can go to the next slide. We just wanted to ask, in our true style of experiential learning and our apply phase, what is one takeaway or next step that you have after participating in the session today? And our hope is that you got some valuable resources, but just looking at what else might you be taking away after today. So
one of the things that I've noticed, again, with today's session as well, we need to be walked through a lot of the resources, and I think teachers need to be walked through it just the way you have walked us through this, because I've been on OCTE's website for hours in the last month and a half, and I know it pretty well, and I have not gone to the EL section, and which is really interesting, right? I'm not the EL lead. And so as you walk through it, it's just one more takeaway when I realized I'm writing down all these notes, got to share this with the teachers, got to share this with the teachers, because honestly, we're fatigued with links. And another link is just another thing to ignore or get to later or whatever the feeling is at the time. But as you walk through it and open up over and over again, when we have a meeting like that, teachers are experiencing something that they did not know existed. So I thank you, and I just encourage others that are hearing this to do the exact same thing with their colleagues, because it's so important to do that.
yeah, absolutely, Greg. I totally agree with all of that. And you know, we're all bad for that. And especially now you get so much stuff coming across your desk and different websites to go through and how to navigate all of that, right? And a lot of times you miss some great things. And that's where I say, I strongly suggest go to your leader of experiential learning. We are a very tight community provincially, even though we are far apart. And especially during this, we've become even tighter, and we have tons and tons and tons of activities to help and support any educator. So, and I know we're a little bit over because of our technical difficulties that we had this morning. So I just want to, if we can just pop to the very, I promise, last slide. We just, OCTE and the Experiential Learning team just wants to give you a really big thank you for being patient with us today with the technology and taking your time out on a Saturday and your weekend to attend the launch of our resources. Although in the session, like I said, we talked about the experiential learning resources here, I invite you to look at all of the resources that OCTE has because they are, and we saw some of them this morning, but even if you go into the resources and you want to search grade 3, it will come up with all of the resources, whether it's through our online or previous resources that we had. There's fantastic resources in there so that we can stop recreating the wheel and just start using some of those documents and making it a little bit easier in the educator world to have to recreate everything. So everything is there for you. And you can also see on this page that, again, the same feedback form from the event and the survey that Christine had posted earlier. If you can please fill out the survey so that from the OCTE organization, it really does help us think about next steps and what we can do to support educators now and in the future. So any of your words of feedback, advice, expertise that you have are welcome in that feedback form. So please fill that out for us. And with that, I will say goodbye. We'll stick around for a couple of minutes if anyone wants to chat. Thanks, Lisa, for that. You're hilarious. We'll have our own road show. But we'll stick around for a few minutes, but go and enjoy a little bit of your weekend, and hopefully you can just take one of those resources and use it, and it will make your life much easier for next week.